I hear a good amount about the 50-40-90 club, where shooters enter after hitting 50% of their field goals, 40% of three-pointers, and 90% of their free throws in one season. But I started to wonder, what about the 50-50-90 club? How busy is it there? Any of the upcoming stats are all from Basketball Reference and USA Basketball. Steve Kerr reached 50-50-90 in 1996. He actually almost did it the year before, during the 94-95 season, but somehow only shot 77.8% at the line. Yes, he had the 50% in three-point field goals and overall field goals, 2 straight seasons. For the 1995-96 season, Kerr shot 92.9% from the line, 51.5% from three, and 50.6% overall field goal shooting. Note that he shot better from three than 2-point field goals, 51.5 over 49.8%, which isn't even as rare as it sounds. And he only took 170 total 3-point shots. But I'm still impressed, and I want to acknowledge that stat. And keep in mind, he hit all those jumpers coming off the bench, not having the luxury to start and get warmed up through a bunch of minutes. He was basically always getting hot right away. Kerr happens to have the highest career 3-point percentage in history at 45.4%, and second highest in the season with 52.35% from 94 to 95, only lower than Kyle Korver's 53.64% from the 2009 to 10 season. To give an idea how hard it is to go 50-50-90, look at Magic Johnson. You might not realize that Magic Johnson was a top-level shooter at the end of his career. In 89 to 90, he shot 50.9% overall, which I'm sure a lot of those were layups, but it's still a high percent. 31.4% from three, and 91.1% from the free throw line. Wow, not bad for a man mainly known for passing. If it wasn't for coming almost 20% short for the necessary 3-point percentage, Magic would be in the 50-50-90 club. And would you believe that he improved his 3-point percentage exactly 7% the very next year to reach a career high 38.4% and still fell wild short of 50%. These happen to be the only 2 seasons where he attempted over 200 3-pointers, if that means anything to you. To me, it means the more you take, the better shot you have at 50%. And Magic still couldn't crack 40%, let alone 50%. So did anyone else hit 50-50-90 numbers besides Steve Kerr? Korver came his closest in the 2014-15 season, but didn't reach the mark in any of the 3 categories. He was pretty close a handful of other times, but would always lack at least one of the free throw, field goal, or 3-point percentage stats. Consider the 29-2010 season, where he obviously had the 3-point percentage, since he set the all-time percentage record. But his field goals fell just 0.7% short, and he forgot how to shoot free throws that year, only making 79.6%. That's likely better than I can ever do personally, but that was Kyle Korver's lowest percentage ever, if you don't count his rookie year. This is a guy that shot over 90% from the line 4 different times in his career, and over 88% 8 different times. So it's like he has the 50-50-90 DNA, but there aren't any almosts in that club. Steve Novak technically hit 50-50-90 in the 2010-2011 season, but he had low free throw attempts that don't qualify. Jason Kapono came officially the closest, within 0.8% of each required category of the 50-50-90 club in 2006 to 2007. Kiki Vandaway came within 1.5% of each category in 1986 to 87. He didn't take a lot of 3-pointers that year, but keep in mind that it was the 80s. Fred Hoiberg came within 1.7% in 2004-2005, his final year. So maybe imagine if he was to keep playing. Tim Legler came close in 94-95 within 1.8%. And then there are a handful of other notables who are a little bit more of a stretch. Jeff Hornacek, JJ Redick, and BJ Armstrong all came within 2.5%. Steve Nash, who I'm the most shocked is not on the 50-50-90 list, came within 3% in 2007 and 2008. And then the furthest stretch that I want to highlight is within 3.5% of each category. And this was done by Chris Mullin, Glenn Rice, Anthony Morrow, and Darren Collison. With their overall volume, you'd think that Steph Curry or Klay Thompson would have reached 50-50-90, But what isn't mentioned is that they miss a lot of three-pointers too. Example, in 2017 to 18, Klay's best year, he went 229 out of 521 all year from three. That's 44% three-pointers made, but that also adds up to 292 missed three-pointers. In Curry's record-breaking season of 402 made three-pointers in 2015 to 16, he shot 45.4%, taking 886 threes. That means he missed 484 threes. You might assume that's a record like I did, but James Harden has that honor with 650 misses in 2018-19. Speaking of Harden, he might be the most interesting case, as he's never shot over 40% from three-point land. And with all the foul calls he forces and free throws he takes, he's never shot over 90% free throws either. He actually shot his best percentage from the line in what was his worst season as a starter so far, last season's 89.2%, the 2021-22 season. One more thing on Harden. For everybody on the stop load management tip, if you look at Harden's record-breaking miss season, he only played 78 games. He missed 653s, but it's overlooked that he made 378, 24 less than Curry's record 402 made threes. So yeah, if Harden played 4 more games in 2018 to 19 and averaged the very doable 6 threes a game, he could have at least tied the record with Curry. And if he averaged 6.25 threes a game in that 4-game span, he would have taken the record all for himself. So that's maybe irrelevant to you, but I'm sure Harden would prefer having the makes record more than the misses one. Positive over negative, though he hypothetically, mathematically, would have been extending that miss record. I guess that comes with the territory. A fun stat, which I've been looking for a little while, is shooting better from three than the free throw line. I've been wondering who or if anyone has ever done that. And I stumbled on Bruce Bowen in his 2002-2003 season, where he shot 44.1% from three and a disgusting 40.4% from the free throw line. Reflect on that. He shot over 3% better from mainly guarded three-pointers than from the unguarded free throw line. In fact, Bruce never shot over 66% from the line in his whole career. I need someone to explain the philosophy on that. Maybe Bruce's arms are like robotic, where they're programmed to only exert an exact amount of force or something, and a free throw's distance isn't in the algorithm and likely throws off execution. I don't know. I'm just trying to make some type of sense of it. Anyway, last thing on Bowen. Remember I talked about shooting better from three than two, using Steve Kerr as an example. Bruce Bowen did that his last 2 seasons. What's crazier is that in 1999 to 2000, he shot 46.6% from three and 33.1% from two. That's 13.5% better from three than from two. Yeah, he didn't shoot a lot of threes, only 58 attempted total, but he didn't shoot a lot of twos either, 136 total. I don't understand this dude's career. Now, compare some of all these outrageous shooting percentages to an all-time great's all-time worst three-point percentage numbers. Charles Barkley led the league in 2-point field goal percentage for 5 straight years in a row, shooting above 61% in each of those years. And of course, that's a lot of dunks, layups, and other low-post things. But how does this guy only shoot 16% from three? And better yet, how did he do it 2 different seasons, which happened to be the first and last times he's played over 40 games in a year? So you think he'd be either fresh and mobile enough to shoot better early on in his career, or seasoned and conditioned enough to shoot better later in his career? Not to mention, I think of inefficient shooters like Iverson, Westbrook, or Antoine Walker if I was to guess who's the worst all time shooting threes. But they all shot over 30% for their careers, and they're not even that close to Barkley. He shot 26.6% over his entire career. And it's funny that he even cracked 500 total made threes in his career. But one more point for you. Steph Curry came within 100 of reaching that entire total in just 1 season. 16 years for Barkley to do that, and yet Steph could realistically do that in 1. He's not retired yet. There's still time. Let's talk about how times and perspectives change when it comes to the NBA. As early as 2011 to 12, no player attempted more than 422 threes. Again, in 2015 to 16, Curry made 402. He basically made what most people attempt. That's 1 year, 1 season. A former career total three-point leader in Reggie Miller never surpassed 43% from three or never averaged more than 3 makes a game. Outside of an outlier year of 6.6 attempts per game, Reggie didn't take more than 5.8 threes a game. Ray Allen peaked at 45.3% from three in a year and hit a crazy 95.2% of his free throws in 2008 to 2009. Maybe more impressive is that Ray Allen never hit less than 74 threes in a season his whole career, which spanned from 1996 to 2014. Even Curry can't say he's done that. He's had years of only 12 and 55 three-pointers made, but I guess cut him some slack due to injuries, of course. So far, James Harden is on pace to reach that Ray Allen accomplishment. And obviously, he'd have it if he retired today. And what's interesting here is that he started the streak as a sixth man in Oklahoma City during his rookie season for the Thunder. And he was still able to hit 93 threes in 2009 and 2010, which was his least amount of threes made so far. If it wasn't for Paul George and Kemba Walker, Harden and Curry would have all the top 10 amounts of threes taken in a year ever. But they have to settle for only 8 of the top 9 highest attempted threes ever, all time, in history, the NBA's lifetime. And all top 10 took place in the past 6 years. 6 years to knock off 8 slots of 42 plus years of the three-point line being in the NBA. The least of these top attempts being 731. So again, to clarify, the highest attempts of three-pointers by a player in a season all happened in the past 6 seasons, and we barely finished the 6th one. And just to further be clear, I don't want to make it seem like no one was taking a lot of threes back in the day. The Nuggets' Michael Adams took 564 threes in 1990 to 91. But keep in mind, he only made 167. That's like a little more than a month's worth of makes for someone like Steph or Harden. Right away in the initial year of threes being counted in the NBA, during the 1979-1980 season, Brian Taylor had 90 makes and 239 attempts to lead the league in both categories. But that's likely because he was already used to a three-point line existing in the ABA, where he played for 4 years before being in the NBA. Keep in mind that the three ball was already allowed in the ABA since 1967. Looking at USA Basketball's site, consider that on November 13th, 1967, the Indiana Pacers of the ABA were losing to the Dallas Chaparrals 118 to 116, with just 1 second left on the game clock. Indiana inbounded the ball to Jerry Harkness, who was 92 feet away from the basket. Harkness threw a Hail Mary toward the basket. It hit off the backboard and went in. People went crazy in Dallas, but for the wrong thing. Remember that it was 1967 and this was the first year of the three-point shot being included in the NBA. But the players and fans weren't used to it just yet. So a lot of the roughly 2,500 people in attendance that day thought that the shot was a miracle that just tied the game and forced overtime. But in fact, he was 68 feet behind the brand new three-point line. That 92-foot shot won the game for the Pacers, 119 to 118. And then there's the last thing I want to talk about. Larry Bird likely has thousands of people that consider him the greatest shooter ever, but Bird is among the many who have hardly come close to the 50-50-90 season. And guess what his career highs were for a season? 92 makes and 237 attempts, both in the 1987-88 season. So never above 100 three-point makes for Bird. Callback, Magic made 106 threes in 89 and 90. My question is, why not more attempts by Bird? Why not a whole career of 500 plus threes attempted in a season, at least? What was he trying to prove by taking upwards of 1,629 twos in 1 year? Analytics heads would call that extremely inefficient today, particularly considering the capability of the shooter we're talking about. Imagine Steph Curry only settling for long twos and layups all his career. That would most likely be a wrap for any of those 4 titles he has, unless maybe Clay and Draymond picked up his three-point slot, but I doubt it. In conclusion, numbers are not everything, but they are fascinating to me, especially being someone who plays fantasy sports. And I look forward to the 22-23 season in hopes of potentially seeing the next 50-50-90 entry.